Can we afford to live in the state of Texas? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the cost of living in Houston, Texas. Now, I don't personally live in Houston. I live a little bit further out, but that is the closest big city towards me, so I'm using those numbers to compare to what I currently pay. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are not new, welcome back. My name is Janelle, and on here I do all things budgeting. I also include work week lunches, grocery hauls, meal planning, and lifestyle videos. So if that is something that you're interested in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So today we're going to be talking about the cost of living and whether or not me and my family of 3 can afford to actually live here in the state of Texas. So I have my notes here, so if you see me looking down from time to time, it's just to make sure that I'm giving the correct numbers. Now, these are not like all like fact on fact, because depending on what website you go to, the numbers are a little bit different, but these are just like general averages of what people are paying in Houston, Texas. And then we're going to talk about what I am paying and whether it's below or beneath, and then we'll also touch on the median income and probably what you actually need to spend to live here in Texas. So the first thing we're going to talk about is housing, because if you're going to live somewhere, you're going to have to live in something, whether it's rent or a home. Now, I didn't do rent because we're not renting. We own a home, so I decided to go with the numbers for the home. So the average mortgage in Houston is $2,500. Now that sounds like a lot, but depending on where you live, that might be super cheap or that might be super expensive. For my household, our mortgage and interest is only $1,014, and that was because we got a really good interest rate whenever we bought our home. A lot of the extra money that we pay is really taxes and insurance. We do live in an area that is highly sought out of, and so the taxes are just it's a lot, y'all. But we currently pay $2,240 a month for our mortgage, and it actually could be a little bit cheaper if our house wasn't going up so much that we weren't putting enough money into escrow to be able to cover that. So some years we're having extra money added on because we're trying to cover up from last escrow. So I think our mortgage would be right around like that $2,000 mark is where I think like we would really be. So for us, we are doing good in the mortgage department because we did not buy the top of our budget when it came to buying our house. We were trying to stay as low as possible, but still get everything we want. And we love our home. We've been in it for 3 years now. We bought it in December of 2020. So in the housing department, we are doing good. Now on to utilities. So in utilities, there are different averages. So the average for water is $108. Now our average water bill is somewhere like $170, $180. And that is just because the area that we're in, our mud taxes, just kidding, not our mud taxes, I don't even know, but there's a tax that they have that we shouldn't be being taxed for, and they are just crazy. And if we didn't have to pay for that, my water bill would probably be around $108. But once again, it's average. It's depending on where you are, where you're located, how many people are going to be in your household, whether you have grass or a lawn to, water and things of that sort. Next is going to be gas, and the average is $114.14. I say that we come below that. I want to say our gas bill is maybe over $100 2 to 3 times out of the year. Other than that, we spend about $30 to $35 a month. So for sure, we are under when it comes to paying the average for our gas bill. Here in our home, we do use gas for heating, and for like our hot water and for our oven. Everything else is electric. And talking about electric average is about $148. I want to say the first 2 years we were here, I would say that's our average. Last year may or may not have been an anomaly, but it was hot, y'all. It was hot in Texas. So our light bill was super, super high for a couple of months. But I could agree that about $148 for our home. We're not home a lot. We more so use a lot of it during the weekend. During the times that we are gone, we set our thermostats and program them so they're not running too much during the daytime. But we do keep on our fans to make sure air is like circulating and it's not hot and stuffy in the house. And then for cable and internet, they did like an average of like $145, so $85 going to cable and $60 going to internet. Now we are above that because where we stay, we don't get the regular like AT&T or Comcast. And the people that we do have, every year I fight with them, but we stay around that $85 mark for internet. And the one subscription that I would say is very comparable to cable would be our YouTube TV that we budget for every month. And that is at $95.03. Although that is a premium because we do have the sports package added on as a addition. However, if I'm not mistaken, they were at $79.99 if you just did kind of like their base package. So that would kind of, mix and match well with what they are saying that the averages are. So those are the averages for utilities. Now we are going to get into transportation. So this was really interesting because they did transportation based on if you were single, if you're a single person with a child, a single person with 2 children, if you were a 2 household with no children, 1 child, 2 child, whatever. So I did the one that worked for us, which is 2 adults or 2 working adults with 1 child. And the average annual cost of transportation they had at $12,045. Now I was trying to do some research to kind of really figure out how they came up with that number. But based on what I was getting, it was taking into account whatever the 2 costs of the cars are, like if you are paying on or your car is being financed, insurance and gas and registration and maintenance. So I'm going to say that we fall underneath that. Maybe slightly because when it comes to maintenance, my husband is a master mechanic. And so a lot of the maintenance comes at a premium cost in terms of we don't have to pay very much of anything. When it comes to that, we are currently paying 2 vehicles at this moment. It's not what we wanted to do, but we are heavily trying to pay those off. But even with those, we do very well. I think that I do well on gas. I did see somewhere else where they said you pay about $211 on average for gas. I use premium gas, so I think that is a little bit more, but that's actually kind of what I use on a monthly basis. So I think that is kind of around, just depending on how far you have to drive, if you're doing highway miles or like city miles, all those things come into play. But I think that is fairly safe to say that around $12,000, just like gas alone, and if you're paying a car payment and insurance, I think you've met that mark already. So that is what the average was for transportation in Houston, you guys. Granted, like I said, I don't live in Houston, but this is the closest big city to me to where the numbers can honestly somewhat match where I actually live. Next is going to be childcare because we do have a child. She is 2 years old, so she's in daycare. Y'all, I almost cried because some of the numbers that I was seeing were like people were paying $277 a month for daycare. And I'm like, where are they going to school? But we pay $997 right now for daycare. There are some plus sides to this daycare though. So I think that's also something you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about the daycare that you are taking your child to and whether or not you can actually afford it. But the average cost for 2 adults that have 1 child is $8,657. I wish I paid that because this past year, we paid almost $13,000 in just a daycare alone. And I just think to myself, man, that is a lot of money to pay for daycare, but sometimes it's what you have to do in your situation. So we are well over that cost. However, when I looked at what daycare costs for where I actually live, we actually pay less than what the average is, which I think the average is about like $1,300 a month for the area that we live. So once again, it's really just going to be where you live, where your child is going, and things of that sort. Next, we are going to talk about groceries. So if you don't know, I feed my family on about $400 a month. Sometimes we go over budget, but for the most part, we stay within that $400. We don't get into the 6 and the 7s and the 8s and the 9s type of like over budgeting. But the average grocery bill for a family of 4, they don't really do family of 3s, but a family of 4 is about $780 to $1,000. In some cases, it was up to $1,342 a month on groceries. And I'm like, what? Y'all, if I had $1,300 to buy on groceries, I don't think I would know what to do with $1,300. I literally would just be buying things for fun, because I think if our budget was about $500, $550, that would really be enough. But $1,300, at least for my family, would be a whole lot of money. But that is the average. And I'm surprised and I'm very happy for my family that we can survive on $400 because we do not have it in the budget currently to be paying $780 for groceries every month. But that is the average. I couldn't get good numbers on eating out, but I did see some numbers where they talked about maybe it's like about $50 to $60 for 2 people if they went to eat out, like, you know, at a medium fast food place, and then like $13 if you just went to like a McDonald's or something for 1 person. So that is all relative. Right now, we're not really eating out, but y'all, if you are door dashing, it is definitely going to cost you twice as much to eat out, especially if you have a family. Now we are going to get into what the median income is in Houston, which to me was very, very surprising based on the numbers that I'm actually talking about. So the median income in Houston is $56,019. That's the median annual income. However, it states that the average household spending for the month without rent was $5,173. That's without rent, y'all. And if you do the math on that, that means that you actually need to make about $63,000 a month, plus more because you're not paying for rent or a mortgage. So you're looking at almost maybe like $7,000, $7,500 a month that you need to make to realistically live in Houston, potentially comfortably. Especially if you have a family. But the way that these rents are going as well too, I was looking at some of them. The average 1-bedroom apartment is like 882, or maybe it was just the average apartment was 882 square feet, and it was about $1,300 to $1,500. Once again, y'all, that is all relative to where exactly you're looking and what you're comfortable, you know, living in, and what areas you're comfortable staying in. So I thought that it was very interesting that the median income was about $5,600, where we hear on the news all the while now that like middle class people need to make well over, you know, 6 figures to even barely make it. Now that we know what the cost of living is like for Houston, how do we match up to that sort of cost of living? So you guys haven't fully seen like my husband's income and then like my income, but if we were really to put all of our incomes like fully together and do an actual budget. Our income is over 6 figures. My husband has his own bills and things that he has to pay for, and so do I. This is just our household budget. I try to keep our budget for our household around $4,600 a month, but with our buffer in account, I would say we're budgeting around $5,800 a month, which would bring us to about maybe $60,000 a year. If we do maybe $72,000 a year is kind of what we're working with in our household budget, which sounds pretty decent. It is more than what a family in Houston would be making and trying to survive. The numbers are skewed a little bit because, like I said, there are certain things that are not in our household budget that we are still paying for. But this is just based on the household income and what we would like to live on in the future. Our bills all come out to about $4,700 a month. So that includes, groceries, gas, household, baby girls' daycare, our mortgage, our utilities, savings, and all of those things. So I think we're doing pretty well to be able to afford to live in Texas. We're not in the negative, and that is always positive, but there's so much more room for us to improve and save on our cost. But I just wanted to share this with you guys. If you guys haven't already, go and look up the cost of living for where you live and see how your budget and your lifestyle matches up. I think it gives you a better understanding of, just what, is expected in your state in terms of what you should be paying and probably what you shouldn't be paying. And if you need to adjust, how you can adjust. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some great insight. Check out some of my other budgeting videos in the description box below. Like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. And I will see you guys in the next one.